Good morning, members, and welcome to this annual council meeting on the 28th of May. I would like to introduce my chaplain, Mark Jones, who will now lead us in prayer. A rare opportunity to see Mark live because we've always seen him on the screen for the last year or so. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, John. I'm sorry I can't stay for the meeting this morning as I have another appointment, but it's been a real privilege to serve you all in this way these past months. As my mother taught me to say, thank you for having me. Growing up as children, I imagine most of us were raised to say please and thank you. Saying thank you has always been a powerful thing. And I guess in 2020 we all became experts in saying thank you. Thank you to the NHS and other key workers. And in Dawlish, as elsewhere, we've been thinking, who else could do with a thank you? So working together with other local agencies, we've also thanked teachers, firefighters, ambulance crew, doctors, surgeries, essential shop workers and pharmacists. And lately we've also been thanking the police, who rarely get thanked, some of the unsung heroes of the pandemic. And they faced a literally thankless task of trying to enforce social distancing. In Paul's first letter to the church in Thessalonica, we read these simple words: "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you." Now, even in our darkest days, there is something we can give thanks for, and there's always someone to thank. The way our brains are wired, thankfulness releases joy. And joy, as we read in the scriptures, is the source of our strength. So with all this in mind, let's give thanks. And as ever, if you're not a person of faith, please use this time in whatever way suits you to think and reflect on these things. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for hearing our prayers, feeding us with your word, and encouraging us in our meeting together over these past months that we have journeyed together. We thank you for John's sacrificial service to the community as chair of Teignbridge District Council. Please take what he has offered, multiply it, and use it for the common good in the months and years ahead. We thank you for all the councillors, managers, officers and staff of Teignbridge District Council for their commitment to our local communities and for the personal cost to them of both maintaining existing services and pioneering new initiatives. We thank you for guiding us through this long, hard road of the pandemic and for leading us out the other side into the hope of better days ahead. And because of the wonderful vaccines, much sooner than we may have feared. We thank you for giving us this gift of hope, the very thing that drives humanity onward into the future. Finally, we thank you for each other. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Meeting protocol for today, members. There is no fire alarm test planned today. However, should the fire alarm sound, please leave the room at your nearest exit and meet at the front of the grandstand, which I believe is in that direction. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak and stay seated when speaking. Please wait until a boom microphone is brought to you. Considering the configuration of the room and the distance that people will have to travel with the boom microphone, if you could keep any comments you wish to make to the absolute minimum and just consider the salient points, please. Wearing a mask at all times unless you are seated, and voting will be with a show of hands. Are there any apologies for absence?
Councillors Bradford, Cook, Eden, Haynes and McGregor.
Thank you. Minutes of the 22nd of April 2021. Could I have a proposer for those, please, unless there are any objections? Sorry, are there any points that members wish to raise before we go to the vote? I can't see any hands, so could we have a proposer, please? Councillor Connett, leader, and a seconder, please. Councillor Dewhurst, thank you. Can we go to the vote, please? On that, just raise your hands if you're in agreement. So I think that's certainly a majority for. Any against? No. Okay.
Chair, we just have to have abstentions, please.
Sorry?
Abstaining.
Oh, sorry, any abstentions? I can see one abstention, yes. Thank you. Now moving on to the minutes of the extraordinary meeting, which was on the 4th of May. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Connett, and a seconder, Councillor Dewhurst. Anybody would like to raise any points regarding those minutes? No. Can we go to the vote? If you're in favour, please raise your hand. That seems very much like a majority. Any against? Any abstentions? Just one abstention at the rear. Thank you for that. Item 3, are there any declarations of interest? No? Announcements. I've just got a couple of announcements. This Sunday, the 30th of May, marks the 175th anniversary of the Teignmouth Railway Station, a date which is also, when it also became the headquarters of the South Devon Railway. I would never have thought the building was that old, actually, but it's quite incredible. The meeting is being streamed live on YouTube, and councillors wishing to speak, please wait until the boom microphone comes to you, otherwise you won't be heard on virtual media. Public questions, there aren't any public questions today. The next item on the agenda is election of the Chair of the Council. So could I have nominations, please, for the Chair of the Council? Councillor Hook.
Councillor Hook, sorry, could you remain seated, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure I need this, but I'll give it a go. Mr. Chairman, I am very pleased to, it gives me great pleasure, in fact, to nominate Councillor Colin Parker as the next chairman of this Teignbridge District Council. He, as you know, is a fellow councillor of mine representing Buckland and Milburn, along with Councillor Jenks, and it gives me great pleasure, therefore, to nominate a member from Newton Abbot. I've known Colin as a friend and a colleague for more years than perhaps either of us care to remember. I find him to be a loyal and respected friend and a strong family man. He is devoted to his family. He is a man committed to his community, committed to his town, where he has lived for at least 40 years. He is Devon born and bred, made in Devon, you might say. Incidentally, a strong campaign which I'm promoting. Colin is an experienced councillor who has been a Newton Abbot Town Councillor since 2007, 14 years, and a Teignbridge District Councillor since 2011. He was Mayor of Newton Abbot in 2011-12 and has been Chair of the town's Finance Committee for 7+ years. He has spent much of his life in the financial services industry. Colin will bring experience, therefore, to this position, but he will also be an extremely fair-minded chairman who will represent the district with dedication and, I believe, distinction. He is in the fortunate position of retiring from employment by this time next week and will have the time and energy, therefore, to represent the council in the various ways the position demands. I have no hesitation in strongly recommending Councillor Colin Parker to you as the next chair of the district, and I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hook. So proposed by Councillor Hook. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Alan Collett, the leader of the council. Are there any other nominations for the chair of council? In that case, members, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour of Councillor Colin Parker becoming the chair of this council, please raise your hand. Yeah. Sarah, I'll hand over to you at this stage, Sarah, because you can see everyone.
Do we have anyone against? Anyone abstaining? That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed for that. So I hand over now to Councillor Colin Parker, but before I go, I'd just like to say a few words, if I may, please. Normally at this time, the outgoing chair would describe the year that they have just experienced in some detail. But the year that we have all experienced together immediately conjures words like challenge, hardship and crisis. Last year at this time, it was doubtful if any of us could have foreseen what was on the horizon for us to face as a district council. We have been confronted with creating and adapting to new ways of working and living our lives amid stressors that we have never experienced before. My year as chairman has probably run in parallel to yours, lockdowns and virtual meetings, but we have managed. It really has been a year that we will never forget. I would like to thank our staff for setting an extraordinary example of commitment, professionalism and solidarity during the coronavirus pandemic. I would like to thank, in particular, Sarah Selway for supporting me through an exceedingly difficult year. Also, thanks to my chaplain, Mark Jones. Mark is an exceptional guy, and I'm confident that you will agree that Mark has a different approach to prayer, and his thoughtful delivery has encouraged us all to listen and engage with him. The Chairman's Charity Fund this year, I advised some weeks ago that due to an anonymous donation of £65,000, Linda and I have met our target, which was beyond our wildest dreams, and we've been able to fund a specially adapted minibus for East Seabridge Community Transport Association. Colin Parker is about to don the mantle of Chairman of Teambridge District Council. I've known Colin for 10 years and have every confidence that he will be an excellent chairman, and I wish you well. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, John. Thank you, councillors, everyone, and thank you, Councillor Hook, for those very kind words in proposing me. Thank you very much. I am extremely honoured and feel most privileged to have been nominated and elected to the position of Chair of Teambridge District Council. Rest assured, I will treat the position and the duties that come with chairmanship with the highest regard as the position demands. I would like to say before I go any further that I commend Councillor Petherick on his year of chairmanship and the related duties during this very challenging year. It was probably not the year he had wished for, being very difficult for all of us, but he coped with it in a very dignified manner. Thank you and well done, John.
Thank you.
Leading on from that, we are obviously in a much better position pandemic-wise than we have been for a long time. But I do stress caution ongoing. It will be a while, I feel, before we feel at ease with the situation and things return to relative normality. The fact that we're here today at this racecourse venue, using it as the most suitable and available place within the district, demonstrate that this is just a stepping stone on the road back to our previous routine. In respect of announcements, it is usual for a chairman to announce a consort, chaplain and charity for the forthcoming year. I intend to announce these in the members' newsletter and then formally at our next full council meeting. Councillors, all through my working life, in my private life, and including the 14 years as a councillor, I've tried to treat everyone that I have had personal contact with, the wider public also, in a straightforward, respectful and fair manner. I will endeavour to continue in that mode in this role. Irrespective of our beliefs and views, it is my expectation that all of us, whether it be in dealings with each other, officers and the general community, that we follow similar principles. Finally, I would like to say thank you again for putting the trust in me and the trust from such a knowledgeable group of councillors which you have given to me. Thank you all. I'd like to move on to item 7 now, and election of a Vice Chair, and I'd like to call for nominations for the position of Vice Chairman of Teambridge District Council. Councillor Keeling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I propose my fellow Chudley councillor, Lorraine Evans, as the Vice Chairman for Teambridge District Council.
Thank you, Councillor Keeling. Do we have a seconder for that nomination? Councillor Jeffries. Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I don't see any, so if we go to the vote, all those in favour is Councillor Lorraine Evans. I'll let you check that, Sarah.
Yeah, have we any against? And any
Any abstentions? Two at the back.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Councillor Evans. I think we're going to do a brief changeover. Well done, congrats. Yeah, I think so. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah. I'd just like to thank you all, say I'm delighted to accept the nomination and thank you for your support. I look forward to supporting the council in the coming year and supporting Colin Parker, and just assure you all that I'll do my very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you very much. We can now move on to item 8, which is committee appointment and political balance. I think all the seat allocations have been circulated, so I'd like to ask for a proposer for those nominations. Councillor Connaught, the leader, and Councillor Dewhurst, seconded. Can we go to the vote? All in favour? Any against? Abstentions? One at the back, I think.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving swiftly on. Item 9 is the recommendation from Executive on the housing strategy. I'd like to ask Councillor Wrigley, the portfolio holder, to propose this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is the regular update of the housing strategy, the Council's housing strategy, setting our direction for 2021 to 26. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the officers involved in pulling this together. It's been a big undertaking, and I think we have an excellent strategy here. It's already gone through a wide consultation, having had more responses to the consultation than in previous years, and very largely positive. It's gone through overview and scrutiny and through examination at the Executive. It addresses three main areas: delivery of affordable homes, improving homes, and preventing homelessness and rough sleeping. I'll very, very briefly just run through what we're talking about in here. So, open market planning obligation, section 106, will continue to deliver the bulk of the affordable homes. However, I draw your attention to the housing register trends that show a demand list of about 1,000 households, with some 400 housed each year, and yet demand remaining at around 1,000 at the end of the year. Section 106 and registered providers are just not able to provide sufficient numbers. And central government plans not only look likely to reduce numbers delivered in this way, but this week have actually done so. TDC will add to the numbers through the Teambridge 100 programme. This is a pipeline of 100 opportunities to deliver some 25 to 50 new homes per year. New opportunities being added as we deliver homes. The key aim is to increase the number of truly affordable, low-carbon homes, principally at social rent, with high quality, high efficiency and minimal environmental impact. Genuinely affordable to rent and genuinely affordable to run. We also continue to encourage community-led housing projects and will deliver across villages, rural and town areas. We continue to work with private landlords to help them improve the condition of their properties and offer grants and loans for home improvements. We have won several grant funding opportunities to tackle fuel poverty and to provide air source heat pumps into homes across the district, and will continue to focus on bringing empty homes back into use. We also continue to focus on keeping people independent at home through disability facilities grants and other schemes that we run. Homelessness has a serious and harmful effect on those who experience it. We aim to help people stay in their homes if we can, and if necessary, intervene to find new options both temporarily and more permanently. We are developing a separate homelessness and rough sleeping strategy, tackling homelessness and its causes. We also regularly apply for government grants, and we have recently achieved another grant on the Rough Sleeping Initiative that will help us further tackle homelessness in Teignbridge. The strategy was put out to consultation and received some 5 times the response from 5 years ago, with predominantly positive comments and some questions mostly on planning issues. In light of the Executive's recommendation, I'd like to propose that this Council accepts and adopts this housing strategy, please.
Thank you, Councillor Wrigley. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Taylor? Can we go to the vote? Are we all in favour? Certainly. Any questions, Councillor Bullivan? Councillor Parker-Khan?
Thank you, Chairman. There are elements of this strategy that I think are truly applaudable. The homelessness strategy, the improvement to homes, and elements of the affordable housing programme. However, there are bits in here that it's not the principle, it's the proposed implementation for delivery that I have issue with. So unfortunately, I shall be abstaining on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker-Khan. Any more questions? No, fine, okay, so we have a proposal and a seconder, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? It might need a count. Sorry to keep your hands raised just for a second. Those against? Cannot see any hands against. Abstentions? A number of abstentions.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Wrigley. Right, if we now move on to item 10, which is councillors' questions. There are a number, I think 7 in all. As you know, each one has been provided with a written response. You can all ask, each one of you can ask a supplementary question, which has to be linked to the original points. And there will be, after the supplementary question has been answered, there will be no debating on the questions further. Thank you. If we could go to the first question, which was a question from Councillor Mullen.
Thank you. I've got a very brief supplementary. I would like this council and members to be very much aware, and I hope they will stay aware, that these proposals will have a huge impact on this council, Teignbridge District Council, as 41% of our council area falls within the national park. And can also councillors please be aware that any planning decisions may be passed down to us in future, as it will be to the constituent planning authorities. And can I ask that we as a council continue to keep a close eye on this and make sure that if it does happen, we have enough resources to cope with the extra responsibility we'll have to put up with.
Would the leader like to respond to that? Councillor Connett.
Well, I'm grateful to Councillor Morgan for the supplementary. I think we all need to remain vigilant. Of course, I think the Council will rely on Councillor Morgan and Councillor Nutley, who are representatives on the Dartmoor National Park Authority, to ensure that we are up to date with all of the information and what Dartmoor National Park Authority is doing as well. I'm also very mindful of the potential additional burden and cost to Teambridge if we have to inherit the planning responsibilities of the Dartmoor National Park Authority. In my view, this is an ill-judged and ill-considered proposal, and that the Dartmoor National Park Authority does a very good job and is well regarded, and is one of those things that is not broken and doesn't need fixing. But if the government are intent on this folly, we will be vigilant, and we rely on you and Councillor Nutley to keep us informed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Second question is from Councillor Nutley. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Nutley?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I don't have a second question, but I would just like to echo the response from my colleague, Councillor Morgan, and also the answer that our leader has given me, and I appreciate all their help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nutley. Okay, then we'll move on to the third question, which is from first of two from Councillor Bullivant. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Bullivant?
Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The first question related to the extremely welcome investment that is coming for the development of the A382. As you know, the A382 forms one edge of my ward, and over the last 18 months, my residents have suffered a tremendous amount of inconvenience because of the long-running and overrunning roadworks. I'm grateful for the response provided, but I would emphasise that we need to have a proper programme so my residents can understand how long they're going to have to put up with the disruption that's caused by these welcome improvements, and what mitigation efforts are going to be put in place to minimise those and the impact it has on my residents. So yes, I welcome the proposals, but can the Executive please recognise the need for information for the residents to allay their fears about the ongoing delays? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bullivant. Councillor Taylor, would you like to respond?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Bullivant. And yes, this investment is certainly welcome, and we do appreciate that where programmes do fall behind for whatever reason, it does have an effect on local people and their travel. So yes, we would like to put mitigation measures in as we can. And certainly we will focus on the programme now that we are emerging from COVID.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Question 4, Councillor Bullivant again. Any supplementary?
I have a supplementary on the same.
Thank you. I welcome the opportunity to comment on the response given. Back in 2016-17, this council recognised that the problems caused by developers failing to adhere to their conditions that were granted at the time of approvals for development were given were causing issues with residents. A process was introduced for site visits to take place on sites of over 50 homes to ensure that the appropriate conditions were being applied and met during the development phase. It's extremely disappointing to note that of the 11 schemes that have commenced, only 5 since then have had the benefit of such visits. I welcome the comment that that situation is recognised as a problem by the Executive, and they've confirmed that the relevant meetings will take place in the future. Can I have the assurance that the Executive recognise how important these site visits are made to ensure that the problems associated with develops are addressed at the earliest possible stage and mitigated as soon as they possibly can be? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bullivant. Councillor Taylor, would you like to respond to that again?
Thank you again for the question relating to this site visits. And yes, as I'm sure all of us appreciate, site visits have been curtailed due to COVID-19, and that has resulted in some watering down, perhaps, of the situation. I would like to give assurance that now that site meetings are back in order, we will be putting in place the necessary mitigations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Okay, if we could move on to question 5, and the response that was from Councillor Malone. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Malone?
Hi, I thank the leader for his response to this question. However, the response seems to intimate that whenever a site is put forward, it has to be considered, however suitable or unsuitable. But we know that this isn't the case. We know that a lot of sites are put forward and are rejected out of hand for reasons of flooding or because you just consider that they're in the wrong place. So my question is, considering that these proposals contain areas of special scientific interest and playgrounds, my question is broadly, what is sacrosanct to you? What is there that could be put forward for planning that you wouldn't consider for reasons of its public amenity?
Thank you, Councillor Malone. Councillor Taylor again. Working you today, Gary.
So the question is, what will we not consider? And certainly there have been some sites that have been rejected or considered and put to one side that were felt by the HELA panel, which is the Housing and Economic Lands Availability Assessment, which were found to not be able to be developable at all for various reasons. Certain sites, certain large sites in particular, may have areas which could be developed with suitable mitigation, and those sites have now come forward for further consultation through public consultation. I would also add that this particular site will be reviewed following input from Natural England and with due regard to the planning guidance for the South Hams Special Area of Conservation concerning the protection of habitats for the greater horseshoe bat. So I hope this will go some way into assuaging the concerns from the member on this subject.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Thank you very much. Right, we move on to question 6, which was from Councillor Bradford. There's been a written answer. Councillor Bradford is not present today, given her apologies, so there will be no supplementary. So we'll move straight on to question 7, which I think was from Councillor Dawes. There's been a written answer. Would you like a supplementary, Councillor Dawes?
Thank you. Thanks for the answer. The question pertained to the commitment for Council to retain the integrity of the Alexandra Theatre. When I was 30 years old, I was invited by a progressive, forward-thinking and inclusive council in Brighton and Hove to chair a creative industries group. For the 20 years after that, I've run venues that have won more children's comedy awards than any other operator in the country. Been awarded the Arts Council England Award for Best Family-Friendly Theatre in the South East, and were cited in government reports of the Deputy Prime Minister as the sort of venues that every town and city should have in their nighttime economy. Also on your council, you have Councillor Janet Bradford, who over 20 years introduced tens of thousands of children into theatre through her work with Stagecoach in Exeter. Torquay and Newton Abbot, and Councillor Malone, who's operated at the largest arts festival in the world very effectively and in the comedy industry for a decade plus. What I'm actually wondering is why, when you have this expertise within the council elected by the residents to represent their interests, why are overtures of engagement on the Alexandra Theatre have been ignored and pushed to one side? We have an executive that has invited opposition members on at great cost to the residents. What we are offering are our skills, our input, and our engagement at no cost to the residents in their very best interest. So I implore the executive to take on board our offer and also to do at the same time to engage with the Friends of the Alexandra Theatre and any other groups who have an interest in retaining that space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dawes. Councillor Jeffries, would you like to respond to that, please?
Thank you, Councillor, for your comments. Yeah, it's great that we have such a wealth of experience within the council. It does go beyond those councillors that you have just mentioned, and it extends out into the community as well. So I think moving forward, we know that we have great enthusiasm about what's happening within Newton Abbot in terms of the vibrancy of the town, the offer from the communities and the offer from this council, and there will definitely be some collaboration going forward to find out what's needed and to make the town as vibrant as possible. So thank you for noting, and we'll move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. That comes to the end of the councillor questions. We'll move on to item 11, notices of motion. Now, there are two notices of motions here, both put in by people who are not here today, given their apologies, and they have requested that these notices of motions are deferred until the next council meeting. So I would like to, from the chair, propose that for Councillor McGregor's notice of motion that we defer this to our next meeting. Could I have a seconder for that proposal, please? Councillor Bullivant. All those in favour that we defer? I think that's most everyone. Any against? Any abstentions? One at the back. Okay, that's carried. That's deferred to the next meeting. And then we've got another notice of motion from Councillor Eden, who also apologises and has requested the same, that it be deferred until the next meeting. So from the chair, I would like to propose that we defer this notice of motion to the next full council meeting. Could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Bullivant. Thank you very much. All those in favour that we defer? Any against? None against. Any abstentions? No abstentions, so that's carried and moved to the next meeting. Right, I think very, very swiftly, councillors, that's more or less come to the end of the meeting. I would just like to wind up and say thank you very much again for entrusting me in this position as chair. I hope to live up to expectations, and thank you very much, everyone, and such an unusual meeting. We'll get back to normality hopefully as soon as possible. Thank you one and all, and I believe I have to say that can you leave the building, sorry to say it like this, as swiftly as possible. You can talk outside, but could you leave the building as soon as possible? Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. Yeah.